Welcome! I've been expecting you. You are exactly where you're meant to be if you're Ozempic curious, and exactly where you're meant to be if you're looking to have a good chat overall. So pull up a chair, let's sit, talk like two besties, and brace yourself because this video is going to be jam-packed with information on Ozempic, weight loss, side effects, mental health, the usual goodies. So in this video, I want to talk about how Ozempic changed my life, but not in the way I expected. If you're new to this channel, and chances are you are, because this is our first ever video here, my name is Pam Matani. I am a lawyer, entrepreneur, mom, wife, YouTuber. I do have other channels here in the YouTube multiverse, and I love being a part of YouTube. It is by far the most supportive social media community I've ever been a part of. However, my channels so far have been really focused on their own themes. Like my law firm channel is focused on law and helping business owners. And then I have a personal luxury and lifestyle channel that's focused on all things luxury. And dare I say, I felt I would darken people's moods a little bit to talk about Ozempic on a luxury channel. So here we are on my brand new channel, where what you can expect is genuine, heartfelt, daily conversations, genuine, heartfelt conversations of the day, and conversations that really touch on all aspects of life, from being a business owner to a parent to a lawyer to a world traveler, good food, shoppings, just daily walks, and dare I say, the human experience on earth. So thanks again for watching, and let's talk about it. This video, as you'll appreciate, humor is like the way that, like a lot of other people, I deal with some really dark things happening in my life, because I really have gone through a lot in this life, and I think we'll save some of those, or most of those, for another video. I mean, like really horrific shit that I would not want anybody that I love to go through ever themselves, or ever want you to go through. So maybe we'll talk about those together for the sake of public awareness, let's call it. But again, when it comes to Ozempic, why did I start, or why did I consider starting Ozempic to begin with? What's my story on that front? So I considered starting Ozempic after I had had my second child. I have more than 2 kids. I've got a whole bunch of kids, and having kids was always something that I wanted, despite being a very successful, educated, business person. Having kids, I always knew was my, highest purpose in life, and making life better for those kids. They really fuel me. A lot of people think that when you have kids, life stops. And I've spoken to other business owners that are not with children, that don't have children in my cycles, and I'm like, bro, it stops. You think I'm gonna have a kid, pop out a kid, look at their starving face and smile and say, mommy's stopping now? What the hell are you talking about? After having kids was like the most ferocious I ever became about my business. And I mean, the books show it, honey. Like, we have mouths to feed. So anyways, I became a mom at an age that's considered young today. Like, I'm filming in Canada right now. I know in Canada, average age for a first-time mom has climbed up to almost 34 years old. I had my first child when I was 25 years old, completely by choice. I secretly wish it could have been younger, but it couldn't have been younger. I wouldn't have been able to be, and I became a lawyer prior to having my first child, got married prior to having my first child. So just to give you perspective, it's not that the child was like the first thing that happened. The child still came after what traditionally might have been seen as like all the other right things to do. Like, I still got my multiple degrees, still got married, still all of that. So even though I had my child young, it wasn't that it was like this random, split minute decision and I had nothing else sorted out in my life. The child still came because I had done everything else young too. And that's a topic for another video, but I have like major phobias when it comes to the passing of time. So anyways, we popped out, or I popped out, he didn't pop out. I popped out my first child, and then soon after decided to conceive a second. Now, I also do have PCOS, which does really impact my weight. Thankfully, I know a lot of women with PCOS go through really life impactful symptoms. When it comes to me, the biggest thing I noticed on my body, other than irregular cycles when I was younger, is that it is just really hard for me to lose weight, like really, really hard. But like I said, I always knew I wanted to be a young mom, but the other part of that puzzle is that I always knew I wanted to have a lot of kids. Not to sound like Elon Musky, you know, repopulate the world with like spawn minions, but you know, I wasn't that crazy. But if it were up to me, I'd have like 5 to 10 children. Okay, don't hang up just yet. We're still talking here. So the point is, with that volume of kids, I know that I'm not going to be able to do what somebody might do if they only had one child in life, or have like even just 2 kids. And that is like have your child, bounce back, all of that. I don't got the time to bounce back. So I have to boom, boom, boom it. So long as, of course, healthy and appropriate. And I will have you assured that for whatever province I gave birth in Canada, I had the best, highest rated OB/GYN in that province. Like, health is not something I play with. So again, just giving you the background. I'd had my first child, of course, gained weight after that. I gained, and this is another side story, but overall I gained 45 pounds with my first pregnancy. It was way too much. The first 22 weeks of my first pregnancy, I had gained 3 pounds only. My doctor freaked out, said do whatever the hell you can to gain weight. I went about it the only way I knew how, which was just like the most fatty food on earth. Burgers, milkshakes, things like that. Vegan burgers, vegan milkshakes, things like that. And I gained such a ferociously abnormal amount of weight that then, of course, it was impossible to tread it off quickly because it had just piled in the most abnormal of ways. So again, I had my first baby, lost some of the weight, and then I still had like 25 pounds to go. But I knew I wanted more kids, so there was no point in me going like crazy to the gym just to what? Balloon out again in 2 months? Like, nonsense. To me, right? To me. This is my perspective, okay? So I conceived my second child. When I conceived my second child, so 20 from the first one, 20 extra from the second one, okay, now we're like, we're noticing a difference. I'm starting to feel like those chickens that we like steroid up the chicken breast and then their legs break under the weight. Like, I'm noticing the difference. I'm feeling my legs are going to snap out from under me at this point. So then I think, you know, I start working on the weight loss, knowing again I want more kids, but I'm like, okay, I conceived the first 2 like a few months apart. Let's give a few more months to this one. Like, let's lose a little bit more weight so that I have allowance, right? Allowance to gain weight for the next one. Usually every woman needs to gain weight for pregnancy, and there are exceptions, but big picture, whether that's 10 pounds if you're heavier to begin with, or whether that's 35 pounds if you're super light, I never was. But every woman needs to gain some number of weight for a pregnancy. So again, to make allowance for that so that I'm not tipping the scales at the end of this third one, I decided to take an extra just few months to lose weight after my second child. And I really, really, really tried it. Like, I'm talking 9 months of really trying, having a nutritionist. You know, thankfully, I'm able to afford those resources as a result of my hard work as a lawyer and business owner and things like that. What better way to reinvest that money than my health, other than like physical business investments? But when it comes to me, what better can I do for myself than take care of my health? So I was trying, okay? And it wasn't coming off. Like, I think after months of weigh-ins, we're talking like 4 or 5 pounds off kind of thing. Whereas if I were to Google on Google what the averages were, the Google would have said I needed to lose like 25 pounds by that point, given the number of weight I gained. So my doctor, who had been telling me all along, like, hey, let's be careful, let's try to do this the natural way, but if not, there's this thing in our back pocket kind of thing. My doctor, who, by the way, had seen me since I was a child, since my immigrant self came to Canada. She was the first and only family doctor I ever had in Canada, and she'd seen me since I was 9 years old. And I mean, having my first child at 25, like, we're talking almost 20 years of being supervised by this person. It was someone I trusted, and on top of that, in addition to having 20 years of seeing me, she had like 50 years of helping other people. So really, really well-versed doctor. And eventually things got to the point where that number on the scale was not moving. I was tracking my food intake through an app she recommended called Lose It, so she could see during our appointments that I'm not like cheeseburgering it up the wazoo here and telling her it's not coming off. It wasn't that. It wasn't that. Like, I was like under eating. I was starving myself. Which, side note, is another negative when it comes to PCOS, because your body can cling on to the weight desperately, thinking that, you know, the system's kind of shutting down over here. So individuals with PCOS can crazily gain weight even when they are crazy under caloric deficit, even when they're in crazy caloric deficits. But anyways, we made the decision, looked at the overall pattern of 9 months postpartum this time. It wasn't going the way it needed to. And she said, would you like to try Ozempic? Now, it was a combination of factors in my life. I was going through an extraordinarily difficult time in my life for reasons I'll share in another video. My husband and I, owing to business and like logistical things, were even in different cities at this point. You know, I was the primary caregiver I was a caregiver for both of our children at that point. You know, work was just going insane. Like, while it was going insane with certain of my businesses, other of my businesses that needed me to be a little more face forward, I was feeling extremely self-conscious to like show up on camera all of a sudden with all this extra weight. Just things up here, right? Things up here. Who the hell is going to turn you down as a business counterpart because you're an extra 5 pounds? It's up here, and I know that. But one thing led to another, and I hate that expression because it kind of makes it sound like we're not in charge of our own lives. But for the mix of circumstances at that time, I decided to go on Ozempic. And when you start on Ozempic, you start off really small. You start off on 0.25 as the initial dose. And then you go up 0.5, 0.75, whatever. For the first month or so, I tried Ozempic, and I'll talk about the weight loss bit first and then about my side effect. That part is coming, and it's the darkest side effect I could think of. For the first month or so, I think I lost 3 or 4 pounds. On the second month, I maybe lost 2 pounds. By month 3, I was struggling to stay at like 7 pounds weight loss. The Ozempic now had started to plateau me and had started to not work. Because of the plateauing, so the plateauing would have been reason to get off of it anyways for me. I never got on Ozempic to achieve a certain body look, a certain size, a certain weight, okay? And I want to address that as well, because a lot of people do. And that's their approach. My approach was, after 9 months of giving it my best and losing low single-digit pounds, I was medically curious as to it was even possible for my body to lose weight. And I know that sounds insane, because the follow-up is, girl, go don't eat for 40 days like Gandhi did. You'll lose some weight. Okay. I know that. But within the realm of the reasonable, I should have lost weight by all medical indicia. So the fact that I didn't was something that made me think, let's try this to see if it's possible for this body to lose weight under any circumstance. I did not have a goal weight going into it. I am somebody that always has been very curvaceous, like, you know, since my youth. That's been very curvaceous. It's not uncommon for me to be in a room of individuals around my height and my weight and have just the largest breasts in the room by far. I had double D's when I was in grade 10, okay? And rappers are rapping about D's and double D's for grown women. So now I am many letters past that, like letters that my husband didn't even know they made those letters when we got together. But I've always been very shapely. I've had that hourglass figure preserved no matter what weight I was at. So I graduated high school. I was 148 pounds when I graduated high school. I thought I was fat. I graduated undergrad 158 pounds. I thought I was fat. I graduated high school 167 pounds. I thought I was fat. God damn. So, and obviously the weight went up. I remember I was 166 when I conceived my first child. So I think 166 is when I would have graduated law school. I was off by a pound. But anyways, for those measures, I always had disproportionately large breasts and butt. And that's only because, thanking all the lords up there, my waist goes in. So my waist is like not a lot of fat going on there. So the fat deposits are elsewhere on the body. And that's all that stuff is anyways, it's just fat. But to me, that's part of the reason I didn't have like a goal weight or anything with Ozempic, because I was scared to set that goal weight out of worry of what would happen if I achieved that goal weight. Because it is, you know, and we're talking like this is a safe space, anything goes kind of thing. So I want to give myself that same grace of treating it like a safe space. My body shape is a part of my identity. And I think part of that is, you know, could be for sad reasons almost. Like I remember being, you know, sexualized as a young person. Like when we would go to the mall with my friends were the ones that people in high school, like middle school, thought that they were the cutesy ones, right? Because they were little, not a lot going on. Because a lot going on is going to be, what's a middle school guy going to do with a lot going on? Intimidating. But when we would go out in the real world, my friends would be like, he's looking at you, he's looking at you. And I would always turn my head and it'd be like 35-year-old men, 45-year-old men. It was always like an older crowd that was looking to me with sexual eyes, because from the back, you would not have been able to know my age, right? I did have a much more sexual body than the average person my age. And because of the attention I would get for those things, and then once we came to late high school, I mean, when I was in late high school, Kim K busted out, Nicki Minaj busted out, you know, whether real or fake, we know the answer. But still, overall, on the outside, they had shape not dissimilar to mine. So then I started to feel, you know, that comfort and that space that not only are people looking at me, but I can, you know, bam it out because they're really looking for it kind of thing. And when I went to college, the over-sexualization got out of control and so on and so forth. So for better or worse, with all the life I've lived in this body, it is a part of my identity. Just the way that I think if a really thin person woke up tomorrow hundreds of pounds over their weight that they went to bed with, they would freak the hell out. If I woke up tomorrow with no butt and a size A or B breast, I would freak the hell out too, because this is all I've ever known. And thankfully, this is all I've ever known. And despite weird, inappropriate looks from people that should never have been looking at me in the first place, it came to be something that I did embrace and I'm thankful to have over time, and has done me well in my life as a woman. So it is has done me well in my life as a woman. So it was, you know, my shape, I consider it an asset. You should consider your shape that way too, right? Your body, your size, your beauty. It's, of course, it's an asset to you. Take advantage of it. So considering it like that, I was afraid to set a goal weight, because what would that mean? Would I lose all my chest? Would I lose my butt? Like at the end of the day, these are just fat deposits, right? So out of that fear of losing the shape I had had my whole life, I didn't set a goal weight. Again, bringing it back to the reason I started Ozempic, I started it because I just wanted to see if it was possible to lose weight, period. No goal in mind. And knowing, because I am weary of new technologies, like I'm the kind of person that didn't wear Apple earphones for the first 5 years and didn't use an iPhone for the first 5 years they came out, because I thought, I don't know what voodoo tech is in that. Let's give other people 5 years to be the guinea pigs. I'll read the studies after 5 years of what doing this, you know, for hours a day does, and then I'll decide if I'm comfortable with it. So I am cautious, you know, when it comes to health, like I mentioned in the beginning. Now comes the really dark part. So thankfully, it's not that I had intended to be on Ozempic for a long time. We just talked about it. There wasn't a goal that was going to keep me on there, like no matter what kind of thing. But I was not expecting to have such dark side effects from being on Ozempic. And what made it all the worse is that when I got on Ozempic, first of all, it was kind of the beginning stage. Like this would have been 2021-22 when Ozempic sales like really started to go through the roof, which obviously just means that usage started to become very popularized for things other than diabetes, which is what it was meant for. So there were some publication like nausea, things like that. Those are very common side effects. There are also the darkest of side effects that you can imagine to Ozempic, including the C word. I don't know, you know, with YouTube, certain words could trigger the algorithm, so I don't know what am and I'm not allowed to say by way of certain words, but cancer, that it could trigger that. And that's on Ozempic's own page, by the way, and I'll put the photo here while I'm talking. The side effect I experienced was thoughts of finish the line, thoughts. And in my life, prior to starting Ozempic, in my first 25 years of life, I had genuinely had certain of those thoughts before, maybe 2-3 times in my whole life before that. My brain, is a little different because of all the things I go through, and I think a lot of times with successful people, all the successful people around me have their own tics, and I feel it gets crazier the more successful you are. So there are patterns there that successful people, tend to be more likely to be on the spectrum, more likely to have anxiety, more likely to have depression, like been there, done that on my end. But when it comes to those really dark thoughts, 2 or 3 times in my whole life. When I got on Ozempic, after the first few weeks, I started to notice a lot more of them. How much more do you ask? 3 to 5 times an hour. I started to track them. Now, keep in mind, if you're a lawyer, you'll have taken the LSAT, and there's a big theme in the LSAT about causation versus correlation. Keeping in mind, I was single months postpartum from a second pregnancy, going back to running my businesses, living apart from my husband, doing all these things. All of these things individually could have given somebody those thoughts. All of these things individually could have impacted somebody that way. So I couldn't tell, and never would I have thought it was a side effect of Ozempic, because having read all the literature, it never once came up. It was never listed as a side effect. Ever. Not under the common, obviously mild, rare, ultra rare. Never once in one article did I find that side effect. I found articles on Ozempic of people bowels imploding and losing their vision, and I didn't find articles about what I was going through. Again, I tried to be really careful with it, trying to tell, I upped my therapy, trying to tell, is it something else that is overlapping with the Ozempic use? It became very clear in due time that what was going on was the Ozempic use. I started to track the thoughts. I could anticipate 3 to 5 thoughts, end it all thoughts, 3 to 5 times an hour, 3 to 5 times of each of my waking hours. I was having a hard time, cooking is something I love. I just love. I'm trained in that as well. Pinkies up from the south of France. I've done my due diligence there. I've taken the courses. If I had 10 lives, I would probably spend one of them pursuing being a chef full time. And for now, I just cook really good food for my family, and we keep it at that. But I noticed it wasn't, just the thoughts. Not that it's just the thoughts, right? These are devastating, horrific thoughts. But my behaviors would also, when I would cook, looking at that knife while cutting up the vegetables became a lot, it was a fight. It was a fight to get through cutting one potato. Horrific. It was a fight to get through cutting one potato, because you cut that potato and you're wondering, what else could this knife do? What other relief could this knife cause if it was pointed that way? Because your brain is telling you to end it all. And it got to the point where I threw out all my knives, all my chef's knives, which is funny for me, because knives are one of the main things I've gifted my parents over the years. I've built up a nice knife collection for them with the best in class for any knife I could find, within reason. They're not knives made of gold and diamond, but for what you can find in the marketplace, they're top 1%. So I love what a good knife can do in the kitchen, but it came to be something that was actively ruining my life every day as the family cook. I threw out all my knives. To this day, so that was 2021, 2022. To this day, in mid-2025, I don't keep knives in my home. If I want to cut something hard, I will either just butcher it with like a butter knife in the ugliest, worst, misshapen, asymmetrical way possible, or I'll spend a little extra on getting it pre-cut. I still to this day don't feel safe around kitchen knives because of what I went through back then. And the knife was such an imminent, visceral visual of what I was going through up here that it's really hard for me to look at knives today and not be taken back to that mind space. I told my doctor about this. I told her the first time, of course, she always took it seriously. She, again, with all that experience, she was never the kind to be like, oh, it's all in your head. Like how seriously she took different things, how seriously she took mental and physical health, but mental in particular in today's time and in doctors of her age, that was the main reason I was with her as a patient. She took it seriously. She said, let's monitor it, 1 week, second week, okay, let's keep monitoring it. But in the meanwhile, I'm the sole caregiver for 2 children now, right? While my husband is out of town. And out of town for like months, not days or weeks. A bad thing can happen in 1 second. So him being out of town for months is of course something I really needed to bolster down on and make sure, I keep these kids alive and well. And the only way to do that is keep myself alive and well. So weeks of back and forth later, I decided to wean off of Ozempic and go off of it. By the time I got off of it, I had lost 7 pounds, most of which I think came back just because of the headspace I was at. Like now you understand, when I got off of Ozempic, I considered myself lucky to be alive. Imagine the strength it takes to hear this voice in your head tell you 3 to 5 times an hour on the hour, end it, grab the knife, end it. Obviously the voice was saying a lot darker shit, but I don't want to put that out there again, just in case. Because of my channels having been so professional so far, I've never dabbled in like the real life conversations like you and I are having today. So again, I don't really know what words to use when it comes to real life. So that's why I'm being cautious. It's not because I'm this like prude. I want to use the best language I can to ensure that this video adheres as well as possible so that as many people as possible see this video and benefit from that real life story that I'm sharing with nothing held back. By the time I got off of Ozempic, again, I was lucky to be alive. I had balanced months of being a single parent. I had balanced bitches when it came to my day jobs, let's call it, and then my businesses. At the time, I was just starting to go full time into having my own law firm. Like this is like half a decade ago now. And I was in the middle of suing my boss because I still had a day job. I was in the middle of suing my boss for workplace discrimination owing solely to my status as a pregnant woman and by the time I left my work, and as a postpartum woman, as a new mother when I came back. Very difficult things going on with my family of origin, like messed up, difficult, really difficult, unsavory, unfair things. I was just getting blasted on all fronts. Bills weren't back then what they are today. There was struggle there in making closing the months. Despite, like I said, doing well, having, being a lawyer, all of that, I still have massive holes to close at the end of every month financially, right? So I was, as a landlord, tenants are at that time during peak COVID defaulting on rent left and right. And they just sit there like the geniuses they think they are. And they're like, oh, I can't pay my rent this month. And it's like, okay, get your ass out of here. Who's going to pay your rent for you? Who? But because of the legal system at that time, it takes months to get those people out. I was just stretched, pulled, and tormented from every angle you could think of. Paying literally for people's homes, other people's homes. Having no support system to navigate my daily life, having multiple young children to take care of, suing my boss for hating me and bitching around because I was a pregnant person and a new mom. And again, just having gotten off this drug that had told me to end it all multiple times an hour, on the hour, like the real OG over there with its like stopwatch, like, hey, it's time. It's time. So when I got off of Ozempic, all that progress, it wasn't freaking progress, okay? Like, I was so happy to be done with Ozempic, of weight loss, went to shits. Like, those 7 pounds were gained back, I don't want to say within a week, but like crazy fast. And obviously with everything I was going through, it's not like I did much to preserve the results at that point, because again, when you feel genuinely lucky to be alive, the last thing I'm going to do is be like, the extra piece of sushi, should I have it? Shan't I have it? Like, bitch, we almost died. So have the damn sushi. And it was all for nothing. It was all literally for freaking nothing. Not that it was meant to, funny enough, be for something to begin with, because what did I say 20 minutes ago? I didn't even start it with a goal. I just started it as a medical curiosity. Can my body lose weight? And the good thing is, so the weight loss and all that shit aside, the good thing is I experienced the end it all thoughts. I would say they cleared up, if not within days, within a week or two of getting off Ozempic for sure. So then that made me feel really good and made me start, regain my confidence a little bit more, being like, okay, I was right to understand that this is what's causing it. Luckily, it's not postpartum. It's not any of those things. I've gone through a lot of births. Thankfully, I've never had postpartum depression. And part of it is because like I genuinely like actively prepare for it kind of thing. Like I bolster that schedule for when I give birth. And it's all me always. I don't have any support outside of my husband when he is physically present. But it's, I actively get on top of it. Like I schedule all these things after, schedule the massages, the facials, the this, the that, like, and of course we were able to do better financially. I was able to schedule more and more of those things. So it has really helped me avoid postpartum depression, like being active about the time after having a baby. One side note being I've never will hire help for my children, but having distractions and help for myself is a game changer nonetheless. So all those things started to, the bad thoughts went away. And then I was able to focus more on starting my own farm. So that up started to go. I obviously successfully sued my boss. So that up started to go as well. A little bit of money came from that. I invested that in land. Could have bought a bag with it or a trip with it. I invested it in land. My husband, back in the picture, although terrible things happened with him afterwards. But for what it's worth, the different setting there, him at least being in the same city, being back was a lot better than him having been, 500 kilometers away. The kids started to grow up beautifully and talk with each other and play with each other, keeping in mind they were conceived by that time only having 2. My second was conceived 5-ish months after giving birth to my first. So they've always kind of been like twins in that sense, and people even think they're twins when they see them out in public. So life started to get a lot better after Ozempic. Now, what did my time on Ozempic teach me? Because when we go through these things, these remarkably difficult things, and again, it didn't need to be remarkably difficult. Somebody else is going to get on Ozempic and sing about it on TikTok. Whereas for me, I was like literally, like I would have hours where they were so bad. I would put my kids in their cribs knowing that at least they're safe, they can't hurt themselves, fall down the stairs, things like that. And it's okay if they cry, if I'm fighting for my life over here. So I will put them in their cribs and just hold on to the couch just to be like, we got through the hour. That's how bad it was. It was really, really, really bad. Or I would go out with I would go out or go to a meeting or things like that. And after the end of the meeting, I'd be like, I made it through another hour. It really bad. So to go through something like that, again, as somebody that's already gone through a lot of shit in life, from being abused to experiencing like extreme poverty, things like that, I know that you better get your lessons out of these experiences when you go through them. So what were my lessons coming out of Ozempic? Honestly, F all the lessons about weight loss and business and this and that. My number one lesson was to love yourself as you are. I usually have had a healthy relationship with my body. Like I said, it did help that I saw very early on in life how desirable my body was to others, which, saying that, totally makes me sound like a victim of like grooming or sexualization or things like that. Like it is creepy to say that, and I recognize that. But at the same time, it's an unfortunate reality of media making women feel that the attention we get is worth a certain kind of currency. So knowing that I was getting all that attention, I always felt good about my body. And we can talk more about that later and what led me to feel good from within as regards that. But overall, again, this is an Ozempic video, staying on theme. I always felt good about myself, but it really started to mess around with my mind that I just couldn't lose weight after baby number 2. And on top of it, because I'm a very goal-oriented person, I still wanted and still went on to have, thank God, a lot of, have other kids. So knowing that, I saw the lack of weight loss that was coming after baby number 2 as an inhibitor to all of my other life goals. Because the way my brain thinks, so again, understand, I didn't go on it for physical reasons. Like I see these people, I see Jacqueline friggin' Hill at 140 pounds going on Ozempic so she could reach 120. For what? You're not going to get a better seat in heaven for being 20 pounds less. For what? So it wasn't that for me. And by the way, how's that for self-confidence for you? You can go to heaven if you believe in it because you're a good person, not because of your weight. Who cares? Like, pursue physical and mental health, obviously, but don't jab yourself to lose, for some pounds. Anyways, so I didn't go on it for the physical. I went on it because up here I was thinking, if I can't lose this weight, then I can't have baby number 3. And even if I have baby number 3 and I still can't lose that weight, then I won't be able to have baby number 4. And if I don't have baby number 4, I'll never get a big family. And if I don't get a big family, how am I going to be, achieving my number 1 dream if I don't have blah, 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 blah. And, the family size, the family, being such motivation for me, giving me such purpose, I tie very closely to how hard I work. So if I don't have a big family, what the hell's the point? Where I was going to be this tiny family with 2 kids that are going to grow up? Are they going to talk to me? Are they going to talk to each other? Oh my God! And again, it's all here. I could have achieved, when I went on Ozempic, I was either a low 190 or a high 180 after giving birth to my second child. I could have achieved every damn dream I had at 100. I want to say 193 because I made it. I want to say 193 and 186 at the end of it, and that's where you get the 7 pounds. I could have achieved every dream I had at 193 pounds. And if somebody thought I was too damn fat to be their lawyer, which, by the way, keeping in mind my body shape, the weight disperses in areas that would not have me present as what someone might perceive as fat. But even if it did, if somebody thought I was too damn fat to be their lawyer, then get the hell in my office. If somebody thought I was too damn fat to have a YouTube, then, to quote Manny MUA, then just don't watch. You know the deal with that. If somebody thought I was too fat to be a good mother, like, who the hell are you? I'm not your mother. So it was all here. So long as this was good, I could have taken the time to work on myself well. Months after I got off of Ozempic, which would have been like November-ish of the month on which I got off of whatever year, either 21 or 22, months off I got off of it, the April of the following year, I was in a much better mindset, much better. And I decided to go back to cooking food I love, which is primarily vegan. Air fryers were a big thing back then. I got the best one on the market at the time, the Breville, like, biggest air fryer on the market kind of thing. And between veganism and an air fryer, so not using any oil, coming from the Mediterranean, olive oil is something that like we're slurping it, right? So between not using any olive oil and going vegan, I lost within the first month, and we had just moved into a new place, like a really nice place I was very excited to be in. In that first month in that new place, no medication, no nothing, just vibes and kumbaya alone, aka positive mental health, facilitated me to live in a wholesome way that allowed me to lose 13 pounds in 1 month. That's how stressed I was. That's how much my body was holding on to all the negative, so much difficulty, so much stress, so much hardship that body had carried over the course of my lifetime, mind you. Yay! But especially since having had my second child and all the difficulties I told you about with money, with work, with marriage, with children, with self-health and my health, all of that, family of origin, all that stuff. In 1 month, 13 pounds. My husband, his stuff was done. We were able to live together. My husband in 1 month, he's a little bit of a higher weight than me, so you'd expect he would have lost more weight. And he was living exceptionally unhealthy during our time not physically together. Unfortunately, that can happen to a lot of men, make much poorer dining decisions. He in 1 month lost either 20 or 21 pounds. Like, it just fell. It fell off. Now, as the story has it, I did have other pregnancies. The weight went up, down, up, down. My heaviest weight during my 4th pregnancy was like a mid 230, a mid 230. And after that pregnancy, mentally, thank God, I was in a good place. I was able to, within the first 3 months of that pregnancy, lose like 30 pounds. And to a lot of people, celebrating being over 200 pounds might seem funny, because 235 minus 30 is 205 big ones. But every body is different. And to me, knowing that I had pushed myself on the verge of needing to hurt myself in the past over weight loss, losing 30 pounds just because I was mentally stable, it was such an emotional moment, a victory when it comes to my health, because I know my bones can better carry 205 than 235. I mean, I think that's a fact, right, for most people, unless you're in some certain competitions or sports where like you need all that muscle to be good at what you're doing, kind of thing. For a lot of us, less weight within reason, you don't want to be too thin either, it is usually a good thing. It's a lot less pressure on our bodies, right? It's a lot less pressure on our heart. It's a lot less fat between our organs, and so on and so forth. But, again, to some people, saying I was 205, if you're watching this video at 350, that's going to be a really big win for you. And if you want to get there, I know you can get there. But it's always this first. To somebody else, I know I went to high school with a girl who would freak out if she ever passed 100 pounds. So she's going to hear me celebrating being 205 and be like, you damn whale. Okay, so to you, I'm a whale. Who cares? But for me, it was a really big, really emotional win. Of course, the weight didn't keep coming off that easily in the months that followed. It's not like I'm losing 30 pounds every 3 months. Again, the logical conclusion of that is evaporation, and that's not the goal either. But the weight came off beautifully at the beginning, beautifully enough to give me a lot of hope. And again, evidenced my hypothesis that it's really what's up here. In terms of the weight, the work I did to lose that weight and the work I'm doing to try and keep losing now, although it's gotten a lot harder, like I still only had this child single digit months ago. It's not that I'm like 5 years after my 4th child kind of thing. The biggest things I did, other than trying really hard to be mentally stable, that's a hard one. That's the biggest one. Every day I try to do something physical. Coming from somebody that has gone to a gym maybe 3 times in my life And those 3 times I followed it up with a bubble tea as a treat and ended up gaining weight because I would walk on the treadmill for 20 minutes, burn 100 calories, then have a 600 calorie bubble tea. I didn't know at the time, but I stopped doing it. As a result of that experiment, I was like, wow, it's healthier if I don't go to the gym. Because if I go every time, I'm having an extra 500 calories in bubble tea. So I should stop going to the gym. And I did. I stopped going. But as somebody that's gone to the gym like single-digit times in her life, my key to weight loss, to healthy weight loss, is not the physical. I do the physical. Every day I try to do a little razzle-dazzle, like muscle building workout routine kind of thing at home on my carpet for 20 minutes a day. And on the days I don't do that, I go for a walk, and the walks are usually like 45 minutes or so. So every day I'm doing something actively physical, trying to be mindful of portion sizes. And a really big one for me, which pays off well, like it's a really good thing to do for me, but also it's a really hard thing to do because a lot of my work, you know, being in a home with so many people, having a big family, a lot of the work I do actually is like really late at night. Like it's not uncommon for me to work until 2-3 a.m. So that means that while my kids and my husband are tucked in at 8 p.m., he's not tucked in as a princess, right? He's just falls asleep putting them to sleep. He's got 4 people to put to sleep. So while the rest of the troops are out by like 8 p.m., I'm working like a whole other day after they go to sleep. So it's hard to not feel hungry during that time. But the biggest thing to healthy weight loss for me has been not eating past a certain time, usually 6 p.m. or so. It's amazing if I don't eat past 4 p.m. Like that feels really, really good on my body. But not eating past a certain time that's not too late. And again, doing something physical every day and just trying to be mindful of the portion sizes. Those are like the big things I've done. Now, the next big question you might have for me or for yourself as you're watching this video, what would I do differently? What could have been done differently? It's really hard to answer that one because I see people going on Ozempic every single day. We see those that take it too far in Hollywood. We see the Ozempic phase. I'll flash a few photos here. It gets them every time. And yet everybody's doing it. So what I would do differently, I don't know that it would have been possible given what I was going through and how hard it was for me to naturally lose weight to not go on Ozempic. I don't know that. And I'm thankful for having gone on it because it allowed me to celebrate my life and myself in ways that I really didn't before. It made my life a little harder because now I can't chop a damn potato or a squash or anything hard at home because I don't keep a knife at home. But from that very slight hardship aside, not a hardship, just pay the extra $1 for a chopped potato. From that hardship aside, it only added good to me coming out of that experience with my new state of mind. Not new body, honey. 7 pounds did not make a new body. But again, so what would I do differently? I mean, in the ideal world, I would never have gone on it to begin with. In the ideal world, I would have doubled down on my mental health. But I didn't know at the time that my mental health was as dire as it was. Because on the surface, being a high-functioning individual, no matter what my mental state or diagnosis is, and being a results-driven person, it's hard for me. Sometimes I can trick myself to feel that everything is going really well just because we achieve these results on a deal, on a transaction, on this, on that, whatever the case may be. But then it's hard for me, what I'm saying, to differentiate myself as Pam from myself and the businesses I run. So sometimes when the businesses are going well, it's hard to be like, but how's Pam really doing? Because Pam and the businesses kind of are one thing, right? My children aren't running my businesses. And thankfully my husband does a really good job with the kids, but that means that, again, it's me running the businesses. So it's hard. I would say, good mental health and access to therapy is a cost worth prioritizing. If you need to eat a little less, if you need to walk instead of take a subway, if you need to not buy that shirt, if you need to compromise in another area of your life, make sure you can do therapy. If you can't do it every day, that's a lot. or every week. Do it once a month. Make it a routine. And I wish I had been more patient and kind to myself. I would take photos in the mirror of things that I hated on my body, which how's that for somebody that always loved her body? But the stuff I didn't like, you understand, wasn't a part of me always, right? It was a consequence or a side effect of the pregnancy. So it was the new stuff on my body, like the OG me, honey. We love her. But anyways, I extended a negative thought to those new parts of my body, a negative state of mind to those new parts of my body, that I should not have been so negative and I should not have had those thoughts. So my recommendation that I would make, if you're in the state of losing weight, you know how good you're being about your food. You know when you're eating that cheeseburger and you tell yourself, oh, I won't do it tomorrow. And then tomorrow you eat gummies instead and you lie to yourself. You're like, but it's just a few. And the next day you have a bite of chocolate, but you're like, but it's chocolate. It's not gummies or a burger. It's not a whole meal. And you know, if even on the days that you eat okay, but you don't do any physical exercise that day. And you know, even if you do the physical exercise, that you're sleeping like shit and that is one of the main things that's going to butcher your weight loss. And you know, you get the pattern, right? So what I would say to somebody that's considering going on Ozempic, unless there's like a life-threatening reason you need to lose weight, tomorrow, I would say invest the same 6 first months you would have spent jabbing yourself. Invest those months in maximizing your mental health and doing something that makes you happy every day while attending therapy. And whether that's therapy with a therapist or maybe a social worker is more affordable where you live. I know on my other channels I have a lot of US viewers. Hey, America. And love you. And really do. I mean, I went to undergrad in the States, so I have a lot of my, a lot of people from my circles are from the US. Most of them, actually. So I really do love you guys down there. But invest in your mental health for 6 months. Speak to a qualified professional at least once a month or as often as you need if you need more than that. Try to do one thing that makes you happy every day and notice the impact while also actively addressing the things making you miserable. Like maybe you're in a miserable marriage eating, Cheetos in the car every night. Maybe it's not the Ozempic. Maybe it's the man inside. Maybe it's the man inside or the woman, whoever, or the gender nonconformist. That's okay too. But maybe it is, like something else in your life that you're covering up with the issue being losing weight. And you need to address those negative things bringing you down while actively doing something every day to bring you up and closer to a dream of yours, closer to achieving a dream of yours. And also just that regular check-in with a professional. Once you do those things, once you get in the right state of mind, it's a lot harder to ignore the mistakes you're making in other areas of your life. Once you start to find that inner kumbaya, it's going to be a lot harder for you to ignore the greasy ass food on your plate. Because you're going to be like, this is killing me. So you're going to cut that out. And once you cut that out, it's going to be a lot harder for you to ignore the fact that you haven't gotten off the couch in 3 days. Because you're going to be like, this is not what life is meant to be. Like, go out there. Literally just listen to the birds chirp for half an hour and your life will be better. Science has proven life is better just from standing in the sun. If you can't walk, if your mobility is impaired, just go expose yourself to sunlight. And you don't have to move while doing it. You can use your device or whatever the situation is. Just stand up. Just be outside if you can't stand. But it's that butterfly effect of the positive things that all follow once this comes into play. And once you get the food and the physical exercise starting to go in the right direction, none of us are ever going to get it perfect. I don't even think Brian Johnson gets it perfect, to be honest with you. And he's like, that's the only thing he does is watch his food and his movement. Once you do that stuff, then it's going to be a lot harder to ignore, the call from within. If you're in a bad relationship or in a bad work environment or this and that, you'd be like, I work so hard on myself, I work so hard on my body, I work so hard for my mental health, I don't have to take this from you. Whoever that you is on the other side. And sometimes you might be yourself. Maybe other times you're going to have issues with alcohol or drugs or other things that, again, the call is coming from inside the house. Other times that you could be a boss, a colleague, a sibling, a spouse. Not the dog, honey. Don't kick the dog out. They're not the problem. But it's the holistic wheel of life. And if after 6 months of living your best life that way, you really have noticed no difference, you can come back to this video and leave a comment that says, bitch, I did it, but it didn't do me back. I noticed no difference after 6 months of living my best life. Well, then okay. Then take the call outside the house and go and talk to your doctor about weight loss options. But I would be willing to bet that every single one of you watching this video, if you live 6 months of your best life, I mean, the answer's in the question, isn't it? If you're living your best life, how are you not going to get the best results you ever have? If you live 6 months of your best life, you're going to see a side of you that you never have before, a healthier, happier side. And as a result, the weight should come off. We don't know the rate at which it's going to come off. I'm not saying, like a kumbaya up here and you'll be 2 sizes smaller tomorrow. It didn't go like that for me either. But, things start going in a healthy direction, right? And if you stick to it even longer, maybe you get even healthier, and so on and so forth. When it comes to King Daddy Ozempic itself, well, don't you worry about them, because they're literally making record profit, record sales year after year after year. Their profits have grown so fast post-2021 that I read articles that indicate Ozempic, quadrupled in economic profit from year to year to year after its initial exposure to mass markets in 2021. So don't you worry about them. They're still making their money. The brand that owns them, Nova something, I'll link it up here. I think the initials of the brand are either NN or ND. I'll link it here while I'm talking, or not link it, but I'll put like a picture up here while I'm talking. That brand also owns Wegovy. So they're a master at what they're doing. They're a master at their business. They're a master at answering the call from within. So how about we answer the call from within too? Ozempic and their parent company do not need more of our money. If it's something you absolutely need to do in order to prepare for something in your life or to save your something from a really adverse health outcome, that is on you to do that and have those conversations with your healthcare provider. I'm going to it I'm more coming from the perspective of somebody that has gone through so much in life, has so much life experience, and all of my observations lead me to the understanding that if we take the best care of ourselves mentally and physically, it can lead to wonders in then unlocking the real issues in our life and the real opportunities in our lives. And if once we start to actively pursue those opportunities while chopping down on the issues, the pathway clears. It opens up for itself. And in so doing, you being in your best health is just a natural follow-up to being your best in all of those other things. So again, this video is not medical advice. It was never intended to be. This video is me sharing my experience on Ozempic, which is definitely not what I thought it would be, and likely not what you thought it would be when you clicked the video. Just to give closure on that side effect and identifying it. On my last day on Ozempic, my doctor was still not able to tell me why I was experiencing what I did, why I was experiencing all those thoughts, those thoughts of ending it all. She said the closest she had come to uncovering the answer was she'd come across medical research that indicated that if somebody was entering the Ozempic experience while anxious or depressed, which I kind of joke and I'm like, aren't we all? But if you had anxiety or depression, I don't know how it's possible to not have anxiety in 2025, honestly, but if you had either of those or even both of them, some people have both, then it could make worse your propensity for thoughts of self-harm. So, I mean, I would argue I've been anxious since 1994, so do with that finding what you will. Do with that finding what you will. but that was the closest she was able to sort of bridge pieces together from the back end as a doctor. We never found a single article that said head on increases risk of these thoughts, ever, to this day. Even a few days ago, prior to putting this video together, I started to do some research, seeing if that research had been, improved or updated. I mean, Ozempic on its own site tells you can get cancer from the medicine, but they still on their own site don't tell you can have these thoughts, which, some cancers could be treated, but acting upon those thoughts could lead in permanent things that can't be treated. So don't you ever dare go near those thoughts, and know that you are loved by virtue of being you and loving yourself first and foremost, and that life, just like you, is so beautiful and so worthwhile living and exploring and loving and being a part of. So thank you so much for watching the first King Daddy Ozempic video on this channel. Again, this is my vlog channel, so this is going to be just every day of life. I'm sure we'll have good days together. We'll have some not so great days together, but we'll do it all. I hope this is a place where much like my favorite channels on YouTube, we can unwind together after a long day or even first thing in the morning, and just know that we're doing okay. We're going to keep moving onwards and upwards and to achieving our dreams and being the best versions of ourselves that we can be. Thank you so much for watching this video. Make sure to give this channel a big subscribe. Show us some love. It is, again, our first ever post on the channel, so it is all the more important that you show us love now, so that King Daddy algorithm can tell we're off to the right start here and keep putting out this content to help other people, just as I hope it's helped you a little bit with your journey, and not just your Ozempic curiosity, but more than anything, your journey of self-love, honestly. Thank you so much for watching again. I wish you the best day. I love you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.